I really think that Jews have a special connection to God, and we
Yes.
are the spiritual epicenter of the world. And a lot of anti-Semitism, I think, comes from when Jews aren't doing their job of being the spiritual epicenter of the world. People see that and they get mad because everybody's soul, Jewish or not, wants to be connected to God.
Welcome to Talk Jewish to Me, episode 3. We here. Can you believe it's episode 3?
Wow. This is exciting.
It's amazing.
It
I'm
is.
excited. So listen, I guess before we jump into it, we got to tell people who we are. I'm Ladero.
And I'm Danielle Hart.
And we are House of Lave. For those who are watching on YouTube, make sure you take the time to like and subscribe, leave a comment and all that good stuff. And if for those who are listening on the podcast, the Apple, on the Spotify's and all those different things, make sure you take the time to like it. And that really helps support the Aish family. So make sure you guys subscribe to Aish everything on the TikTok, on the YouTube, on the Instagram, on all that
everything.
good stuff. Okay, so let's jump into it. If you haven't heard of Mrs. Kylie Ora Lobell, you're going to be in for a treat. She has an amazing story.
Yeah.
And we're gonna talk about it all today.
Yes, we are. We're super excited and just excited just to hear more about her story. We have a lot to kind of relate to, so I'm excited to talk about it.
Kylie Ora Lobell is an award-winning writer, editor, and publicist who helps brands and people tell their unique stories. She's managed teams with multi-million-dollar budgets, worked with prominent celebrities, written for Forbes 500 companies, and appeared in a number of prestigious publications such as the New York Magazine, the Washington Post, the Washington Post, the Los Angeles Times, and the list goes on. She's currently living in Los Angeles with her husband, proud mama of 2 girls, 2 dogs, 4 chickens, a rooster, a cockatiel, and 2 tortoises. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mrs. Kylie Ora Lobell.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh my goodness, we're pumped.
We are super pumped. Yes.
We are very excited.
It's an honor to have you on here and just to get to know you more. We're super excited.
So did we get that intro right? Did we cover everything in there?
That's everything. I have a lot going on, and I always see you guys on my Instagram feed, so I'm very excited.
What?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's
very
awesome.
humble by
Thank
that.
you. We are
Thank
very,
you.
very humble, especially coming from you. So thank you.
Of course.
Okay, so we gotta we have to ask. So you gotta tell us about these animals first of all. Like you almost, I mean, it's almost a farm that you got going on here, right?
A little bit. And we live in Los Angeles and Pico Robertson, so people are like, you can have chickens and
How-
nandos. I'm like, yes, the law says you can have up to 30, and then you can have 1 rooster. So basically, when I got together with my husband 13 years ago, he had a rooster and a chicken in Brooklyn, and
Wow.
it's a very funny story. He ended up telling it on This American Life because it was so crazy. But the city was like fining us for having the rooster. Here we've been okay, thankfully.
What? That's crazy.
This time around we got chickens when we got married, and then we just like kept going with it. And then he accidentally got a rooster, so then we had chicks. So that happened. You do not need a rooster to have eggs. Chickens naturally make eggs, and then once you get the rooster, then you get babies. That's something that a lot of people don't know. I didn't know it either.
Did not know that.
We didn't know that.
Yeah, exactly. So my husband has always loved animals. Like growing up, he had everything. One time he caught a possum and kept it as a pet.
A possum, a big rat.
Really?
Oh man.
How do you keep that as a pet? That is very interesting.
He's brave. I got to meet this man.
He used to work in a lot in Israel and feed the sharks in the Shark Tank. So he's really good with animals. Let's just say that. And then everything else we just slowly collected, I guess.
I got to step my game up, babe.
That's a lot.
I got to feed some sharks. It's like a man's man. So do you have any like favorite animals? I know that's kind of like a touchy question. It's kind of like saying that you got a favorite child. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You got a favorite?
I mean, I like dogs the best because they're the most interactive. Like you can't really interact with a tortoise, but I love all of them in different ways. And then you just see how smart animals are.
Yeah.
Like my chickens, as soon as they wake up, they start screaming for me. And as soon as they see me, they scream like to feed them. And So yeah, I treat them with respect. I'm not a vegetarian or anything, but
Okay.
I make sure that the pets that I have the best life possible. And
Beautiful.
there's a Torah teaching to always feed your animals before yourself. So I take that very seriously. We
Love
really
that.
need to
Beautiful.
treat animals with respect. So
That's beautiful. Yeah, it's interesting because you said you're not vegetarian or anything. We were actually vegan for like 5 years.
oh wow.
And then through this, journey, we ended up, having a Shabbat dinner and that changed like everything.
We
Yeah,
gotta have some steak, some chicken.
I was also vegan. I would be vegan during the week and then eat chicken on Shabbat. But yeah, so did you learn that before the flood, we were all like vegan, vegetarian, and then our
We did.
punishment was to eat meat? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think maybe when Mashiach comes, we won't have to. Or I know they're growing meat in the lab now, so maybe that'll be our new meat, and we can,
Oh man. Yeah, that's interesting, right?
yeah,
That's interesting stuff there.
Yeah, that's not
yeah.
too doesn't sound too tasty.
So we were on your website reading about all your accomplishments, and like you're a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
So you seem like to be the go-to publicist, and so maybe let's start there. Like, how did you get started in this industry as a publicist,
Mhm.
writer, right?
Yeah. I've always loved writing. I majored in it in college. I ended up interning at The Onion, which is the satirical newspaper, and then The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. And that's
Wow.
how I met my husband. He was interning at Colbert. I was interning at The Daily Show. We both had bad experiences. We were like the only non-Ivy League kids there. We were very like not type A people, and everyone else was. So we
Yeah, yeah.
connected on that. And he's also a comedian. So
Oh,
I love to laugh.
That's cool.
Um,
Yeah, we actually read that he does like he's a comic book writer or is a
yeah,
comedian.
he does comedy, stand-up comedy. He makes comic books about his life. He
Wow.
has
that's
a
cool.
mobile podcast recording studio. He started the first comedy podcast. He does a lot.
So
Wow.
cool. Amazing.
That
Yeah.
is amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
So I got started just like I would just literally email newspapers, say I want to write for you, and just pitch, and then that was it. Like everything that has come to me, I've just literally sent an email and said I would be good for this. Let me tell this story, and then they said
What?
yes. So I had no connections. There's no nepotism here. Like I went to New York City just like starry-eyed, I'm from Baltimore, it's kind of a small
Wow.
town. So yeah, and my family's still there, and then we came to Los Angeles because New York weather is terrible.
Listen,
Hey, we
we get
couldn't
it.
agree more with that. We're actually from Detroit, Michigan originally.
Oh wow.
So, we came here for the weather. We came
We
here
get it.
for opportunity as well in industry originally.
Hmm.
But you can't beat this weather. Like it's
Hmm.
the best, right? We don't have to deal with those snowstorms and ice storms and
Hmm.
all that craziness. So, yeah, we love it. Yeah.
And then like the weather like seeps into like your soul, I think. Like people
Yes.
here are much more chill.
Yes.
Like you go back east, and I love all my family and friends back east, but it's more rigid. It's more like you have to get a 9 to 5. There's
That's
not a lot of creativity. So here it's like we're like the creative center of not just the US, but the world. I think
Yep.
every good idea like comes from California because the weather's so wonderful and like people are so relaxed, and the Jewish community here especially is just amazing and chill and so non-judgmental. So
I
really,
love
really
it.
grateful for it.
I love it.
That's
Mhm.
beautiful. And so I know, you being in the industry that you are in and being an Orthodox Jewish woman, I know you just mentioned that you actually have most of your clients are Jewish, correct?
Hmm.
Correct.
Yeah, just because I know this niche, so it's
Yeah.
pretty easy. And like these are the stories I want to tell because oftentimes, I'm sure as you both know, Orthodox Jews are portrayed so negatively in the media and also just falsely. And like when they take like a guy with payas, which is like the curly
Hmm.
things, they'll literally put a costume hat on him so that they're not even connected to his head. Like they don't even
Yeah.
try. So, like, my goal is to get positive stories about Orthodox Jews, whether it's me writing them or like my clients, into the mainstream media because there's so much misrepresentation. And certainly I had it too. Like, I never judged Orthodox Jews negatively, but just from what I thought they were so insular and they were going to be mean to me. And then they're like the
Mm-hmm.
nicest people on earth.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's just such a disconnect when you finally realize that's the truth, you know?
Yeah, that and we can relate to that as well. I mean, to be honest, on our journey, because when we first started this journey about 5 years ago of just really learning about Judaism,
Mhm.
and for us, that was kind of like our thing. We were like, okay, I don't know, Jews seem a little like they seem like ain't mean, or I don't know if they're gonna like treat us a certain way.
Yep.
But then when you get around them, there's just so much love and respect, and they're so happy for your journey and for you converting. I mean, that's all we've gotten so far of, going through this conversion process has been nothing but love and
Mhm.
respect and excitement for us. And so we can, totally relate to that.
Mhm.
And so I know you're president of your company, which is called Cole, right?
Yeah, Kylie Ora Lobell, digital marketing. And it also means
Ah,
voice, like Kol Isha is the term like
Yes.
women speak. So that lined up nicely when I chose my name.
that's a very, very cool setup there. That's awesome.
That is awesome. Can you elaborate a little bit more just about your company, how you kind of came about that, and what does your company like stand for?
Sure. So my company, we tell unique stories. I mostly work with Jews, but also just people who have great values,
Mm.
I'd say, and just getting unique stories out into the world, positive stories. We don't contribute to the noise of like all the negativity now or fighting
Yeah,
with
yeah.
people. That's not the way to combat hate or
Good.
anti-Semitism or anything like that. That's also not how you convince people of your side. Just present them with the facts, present them with your
Mm,
story.
that's
Um,
good.
and yeah, like there's so many times that things have happened in the news that I've personally been like, I need to go on Twitter and write about this. Then I'm like, just let it pass. And it does. And I'm so happy I didn't add to the negativity. So I try to pick clients who do the same, who just want to spread like their messages. And once you put something out there that's good, it'll attract people and people can see your point of view and everything. So I work with authors, influencers, and then Jewish organizations that are trying to do great things in the world.
Amazing. That's really cool. I love what you said earlier. You mentioned that Orthodox Judaism is portrayed in a negative light most of the times. I mean, you see documentaries, and a lot of these documentaries, a lot of the movies are just kind of crazy, and is painting this very, very negative picture. I want to ask you, with the rise of social media, right? Me and my wife were talking about this a little bit. I feel like a lot of Orthodox Jews were not on social media a lot, right?
Mhm.
Until maybe of kind of recently, maybe since COVID hit,
Yeah, I think since
right?
COVID. Mhm.
But like, I guess, to bring it all around, have you seen social media really helped kind of repaint that picture in a positive way for the Jewish community?
I'd say the ones that go outside of the insular bubble, like Aish, like you guys, for sure, because the broader audience sees that, or like maybe more secular Jews see it, who would have a lot of times, sadly, it's often secular Jews that have the bad point of view. You know, they see the Orthodox Jews negatively. Like I have a friend who's very disconnected from Judaism, and she always says, "Oh, I don't like the Satmar Jews because they don't like me." And it's like, if you actually interacted with them, they're fine. They're really nice people.
Yeah.
Sure.
So it's great what Aish does, but a lot of Orthodox communities are still pretty insular. A lot of them are not on social media, so then they're not here to defend themselves. Um,
Hmm.
they and I respect why they're not on social media because it can be a big time waster and it also is just a lot of nonsense and
Sure.
can make your life very very negative and like you're just always like on your phone like, oh, did I get another notification? And it's just really
Yep.
tough, so people just don't want to get wrapped up in that. I totally respect that. um but yeah, I think that we do need to go outside the bubble and try to create content more so for people who aren't going to interact with us on a daily basis like Aisha's doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree 100%. And I think, I mean, we definitely have seen a rise and a difference. And I think it was, around COVID time of just seeing more of, I guess I would say more of observant, Orthodox Jews, that because it's kind of like they had no choice at that time. It was
Mhm.
like, this is either how we're going to stay connected or we're going to be disconnected. And I think a lot of them were seeing like social media can be a good thing. And I think it's just depending on how somebody views it and understands that, you have to have self-control at the end of the day, right? Because it's like, it didn't force you to go look at those notifications every second, right? Like you have to learn to have that control and choose to view the positive versus the negative. But I know for us, it has helped us a whole lot with just connecting with other Jews and learning a lot of information and just staying connected overall. So we look at it as a positive for sure.
Yeah, and I was thinking while you're talking, there are a lot of Jews like Chaya Raichik, not the libs of TikTok, but the other one. She's big on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
There's that relatable Jew. I love her.
Yep.
Mhm.
Non-Jewish nanny who isn't Jewish, but still is
She's awesome.
great.
Yeah.
She's the bridge between us. She might as well be.
Right.
Like people like her are great because it's like proof, I guess, more so than like someone who's coming from inside the community. And
Yeah.
also I see myself that way. I see you guys that way. Like we converted, we were not part of this. No one dragged us into this. So it's different than someone who grew up in it because you kind of don't believe them as much because we should believe them, but when it comes from an outsider, it just means that much more because we've seen the other, like the
Side.
outside world,
100%. 100%. Yeah, I think it's very important that that people that the Jewish community and the non-Jewish community to see more people like the non-Jewish nanny, right? I think what she's doing is such a beautiful thing. Like you said, she's a bridge, and to be able to see Judaism from eyes like that, from fresh eyes that didn't grow up into it. I think it's great, and we're very excited for things like that to be kind of taking place because we learn a lot every single day from people like that. So with that being said, right, let's talk a little bit about this conversion to Judaism. So we
Talk Jewish to me, basically.
let's talk Jewish to us now, right? So we heard that you didn't grow up Jewish, correct?
Yeah.
So how did you come to Orthodox Judaism?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Here we go.
So all my life, I went to pretty like non-Jewish, I guess, just like white. I was actually very diverse in Baltimore, like white,
Right.
Black, Asian, like everything in my public school. And then for high school, I went to a magnet school, if you know what that is. It's like,
Yes.
yeah, upgraded public school.
Yep.
And it was also an art school. And there I just immediately connected with all Jewish people, started dating Jewish boys.
No way.
Just felt more comfortable around them always.
That's cool.
Went to a Passover Seder when I was 16 years old. I ate jarred gefilte fish and it was disgusting. It's like, how can people eat this? It wasn't later until I had the real gefilte fish. I was like, oh, this is awesome.
Got it.
But all of them were reformed to secular, like really not connected to their Judaism. And then in college, I met my husband. He was at a comedy show and we talked afterwards. And he had grown up conservative / Orthodox, went to an Orthodox school, had some bad experiences with it and eventually left. And he was what they call off the derech, which means you're not practicing Orthodox Judaism anymore.
Yep.
He had been off the derech for 11 years. And when he met me, and he would purposefully date non-Jewish girls to kind of get back at it. And
wow.
Wasn't keeping kosher, didn't eat bacon or anything like that, but keeping Shabbat. And he was a comedian. So he would perform on Friday nights, which was Shabbat, which is something that you're not supposed to do. But yeah, he was very disconnected from it. And then what he told me was one Yom Kippur, he was standing on the beach in his hometown of Long Beach in New York.
And Yom Kippur is?
It's the Day of Atonement.
Okay.
So
cool.
he was fasting and feeling very spiritual. It's actually his favorite Jewish holiday. So he was standing on the beach in Long Beach and looking at the sunset. And he said, okay, God, this year I will keep one Shabbat. I will do it. And that means like keeping Shabbat meant like turning off your cell phone, not driving, not working, things like that, like doing an Orthodox Jewish Shabbat.
Okay.
He forgot all about it. And then he was walking down the street in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, where he lived. And this guy with a beard came up to him. He said, "Hi, I'm from Chabad. Would you like to go to Friday night dinner?" Danny said, "Sure," forgot all about it. Then like a few weeks later, he saw the guy again, and the guy invited him, and he went this time, and he had a great time. The rabbi was really funny, Rabbi Shmuley Lane of Chabad of North Brooklyn. He was really nice. And then a few months later, Danny met me, and we were really broke one night, and Danny's like, "Can I take you to this place for a dinner? Because I don't have any money and it's Jewish and they're really nice, really good food." I'm like, okay. I had $6 in my bank account. I was 21 years old.
What?
Fresh out of college in New York City. So we went, and it was like the movies, like that scene in Annie Hall where they're with the anti-Semitic grandmother, and she looks over at Woody Allen, and he looks like a straight up like Hasidic Jew. And so that rabbi comes up to me, and he's very nice to me. I have challah and just chicken and chicken soup, and like all these different types of Jews are there, and it was just so nice. And I felt a feeling I'd never felt before, which is just this warmth in my chest. And I just felt so happy, and I begged Danny, like, take me back there. I want to go back. And eventually we just kept going back. And then like I went to his family for Shabbat dinner, and it was just so different from my family. Like, it sounds stereotypical, but like my family is like white, German, English, very quiet. Like everything's swept under the rug. Like everything's polite and formal, and there's passive aggressiveness below it all. But with Jews, they were like yelling over each other and like pass this, pass that. Like, opinions are out on the table, door slamming, like not in a bad way, just like that's how they are. And I was like, this is awesome. I feel alive. So
you felt at home.
Yeah.
So that first date was at a Chabad?
It wasn't a date. It was, we were dating before that, like a month before he.
But that dinner, he took you to, when he said, "I don't have no money, let's go to this dinner."
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you, that's awesome.
That is. I mean, that's more golden than having money to go on an original.
I gotta meet this guy.
Yeah.
He's great.
So that's awesome. Yeah, go ahead.
But yeah, we just kept going back. Then I did like Yom Kippur with him. Like I fasted. It was horrible. I was like, why? Looking back, I'm like, why did I fast long before I converted? Like, why did I do it? But yeah, I got my taste of it. And I just kept doing everything, and basically met a modern Orthodox rabbi in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, where there's like no Orthodox Jews. Rabbi Maurice Applebaum. He was so sweet, so nice. Like Danny went off on the rabbi about all his trauma from the past with his Judaism, and the rabbi just sat there and listened nicely. And he was so impressed with that. For the first time in his life, someone validated his experiences. Before that, he'd been a teenager, and he'd been around people who just said like, "You're wrong." So for the first time in his life, he felt like someone's listening to me, and I can like create my own Judaism. So through me, he became, I guess, a Baal Tshuva-ish, like back on. Baal Tshuva means like returning to Judaism. So yeah, he started doing it again, and like I was keeping kosher, and he had this really crazy thing. He was like eating chicken at Whole Foods, which was not kosher, and he comes home screaming. He's like, kosher. Yeah, he's like, "I felt the chicken soul." I'm like, "You sound like a nut job." He's like, "I'm not eating kosher. I felt the chicken suffering." I'm like, "Okay." With kosher slaughter, we literally shield the chickens and the cows and everything that we slaughter from seeing the death of the one before it, and then we make sure that it dies painlessly, and if it doesn't, then it's not kosher. So, yeah, like he really connected with that, also like owning chickens. So, but yeah, eventually he came back, and then like he's Sephardic, so he really loves that. He was trying to fit into an Ashkenazi normative world because like most people are Ashkenazi, and yeah, it's just so different. Like Sephardic it's just a completely different plane. I don't know how to describe it, but yeah.
No, we got you. Wow.
So
yeah. Wow. So, just listening to how you were, you grew up kind of, you were around Jews, but you weren't really around like a lot of like observant, like you said secular. So, I mean, can you explain? Because I think this is the question that a lot of Jews like do want to know, especially for people who converted. Was there like this feeling that you kind of always even had being young, being connected somehow to Judaism? Like, do you feel like it was something that was always like drawn to you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say like since I was a teenager, from having Jewish friends, and I don't know if it was just like traumatic and this is why it happened, but as soon as I went to the Holocaust Museum for years after, I had nightmares I was in the Holocaust. Like, it
Mm.
deeply affected me. I don't know if it deeply affects other people, but
Wow.
they say that when you convert, that your soul was always Jewish, that it was at Mount Sinai, and that
Yeah.
at the revelation of the receiving of the Torah, our soul was there, and
Yeah.
it traveled through generations. I actually took a 23andMe. It was 0.6 Ashkenazi Jew. So maybe, whoever was Jewish in my family like traveled and came back through me. But
Yeah.
Wow.
yeah, so I forgot the question, but I hope I
No,
answered.
no, no, you did. I was just saying about, feeling connected because that's kind of like the same way. That's what's really beautiful about Judaism is that you don't convert people, right? It's like a person comes to this place of, wanting it for themselves, like even for us. And I think that's just what a lot of the Jews that are born Jewish, they're very intrigued with the convert. Right. They want to
Mhm.
know, like, what was it? Like,
Mhm.
how did you connect to this? How
Right.
did you? And if I listen to everybody's story, it was somehow something was placed in their life that connected them to it somehow. It's
Mhm.
like Hashem brought it to you in some type of form, and then you kind of sought out for it and you seeked it and you wanted it. And then when you felt it, you were like, I can't deny it.
This is it.
Mhm.
And that's, that was basically for us too. And so you even saying, what we heard as well too, your neshama was once, at Mount Sinai. And we believe that deeply. We definitely do, because you ask yourself, why am I so connected to this? If I didn't come from this, nobody taught me this. Right. So just to hear your story, I love hearing that because that's exactly how we felt too.
Yeah.
And just to hear other converts kind of have that story as well.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me has been, I was an atheist. The only person in my family.
Wait. Really?
Yeah.
See, you just keep hitting us with stuff. I'm like, man,
You're going to have to elaborate
we
on
need
this
2 hours
one.
on this interview, man. Okay,
Okay.
tell us about this.
So the only person in my family who was religious was my grandmother. Like, we were just
Okay.
normal American family, just do Christmas, Easter, whatever, Valentine's Day. So we go to church maybe like once a year during
Yeah.
Christmas Mass, and that was it. My grandma was really connected. She tried to teach me Catholicism, but it just didn't stick. Like,
Yeah.
it freaked me out, honestly. Like the prayer, like if I die before I wake, it's like saying take my soul or something, and
That's
then
a
people,
very, very, very weird prayer.
yeah, it's heavy, and uh, and then the other thing was like people would come up to me in school and say, "Are you baptized? If not, you're going to hell." I'm like, I'm a
Mm-hmm.
child. How am I going to hell? And just
Yeah.
Jesus on the cross. It just all felt very dark and heavy. And I'm sure that
Yeah.
if I had been taught Christianity in not like a dark and heavy way, it wouldn't seem that way.
Mhm.
Um, but just the way I was taught it did, and it seemed like very negative. And my parents didn't baptize us. My grandmother baptized me and my sisters in her kitchen sink, she said. But for me, it
Oh,
didn't work. And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, was I
it
supposed
didn't work.
like,
Oh
was
man.
I like, no, I'm a Jew? I'm glad it didn't work because
You're
maybe that would have been an extra step in the mikvah or something.
I'm happy it didn't work for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
But
man.
yeah, so I grew up like praying to God and everything. I believed in God. And then like I would pray that my parents wouldn't get divorced, and they did. And then like I prayed I'd stop getting bullied. I wouldn't. So I would just said, none of my prayers are coming true. I've
Mm-hmm.
never seen a miracle. There is no God, like the
Hmm.
world is so messed up. So, and then I had no religious foundation to answer any of my questions. So it was
Hmm.
just natural. Like when I was a teenager, I became an atheist. And then just through
Wow.
Chabad, I just, in learning the Torah, everything made sense. And I'd say, like, when I was an atheist, I thought everything was in my control. Like, if I have a bad morning, I'm going to have a bad day. And everything is my fault, and
Yeah, yeah.
I wouldn't be able to be like, oh, maybe this bad thing happened is actually good. But when I
Yeah.
started doing Judaism, now when something bad happens, I'm like, well, that was meant to happen. Like last week, my luggage got lost in JetBlue, which has never happened. And I just kept praying and praying. And I'm like, God just wants me to have faith that it'll come back. This is a test of faith. And it did. And I was like, I was so
Yes.
happy. So even if you don't know why something is happening, usually, sometimes we are able to see it and sometimes we're not. And we'll have to die and go to heaven and wait to see, the outcome and why that happened to us. But
Sure.
just being able to connect the dots in my life and saying at the very least, this is a test of faith and God is making me stronger for the next test, like that has like completely transformed my life. It's the best motivational like life coach thing you'll ever learn.
Kylie, that's incredible. Listen. So, how long were you atheist? Um, and then I guess what was that? How long was that transition between atheist and Chabad? Like, was it just literally like right before that Chabad situation? Like, were you legit an atheist right then and there?
Yeah.
What?
From the time I was 12 until Danny, my husband, took me to Chabad when I was 21. And I'd say after a
Whoa.
few times and I started learning Torah, then I was like, okay, there's a God. This feeling in my chest at Chabad, that is God. This
So
warmth.
you're reading the Torah, right, which is the 5 books of Moses, right, or and maybe even kind of going through all of Tanakh, right, which is the writings and the prophets, and so just by reading that, like that just sparks something in you, and like, or what was
Yeah, what
can
was that click
yeah,
to
what was it something specific that was just like, okay, there is a God, you
yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah. I'd say it was like the commandments, they just made so much sense,
Really?
like how people live their lives and yeah, just the feeling and then the warmth of the community. I was like, this has to be
That's amazing.
spiritual. This is just just this
That's
feeling
amazing.
is just this is godly. And yeah, I kind of always believed in fate, but I never connected it to God. And then once
Uh-huh.
I started learning about Judaism, I was like, well, this is all God. And just believing in God, giving the control, the power over to Him. Just the more that I do that in my life, the more it's called emuna, like faith
Yeah.
you have in your life. Just the happier you are, because anything that happens, you're like, this is for a reason, and I don't have to be worried because it's in
Mm.
God's hands. So.
Holy moly.
So good. I can relate to you a lot. I wouldn't say I was quite atheist, but always had like a belief there. But just your story, just is kind of like, of being raised. And I know my husband, he can kind of relate to. He was raised Christian,
Yep.
right? His uncle was his pastor, basically. So having to be raised in that. And I didn't go into Christianity until I married him. So and I'm like, it's your fault.
I
No.
got her in there.
But I question it a lot. So kind of like, how you weren't connected with a lot of the things that you were learning. That's exactly how I felt. It was like those questions I had. And I'm like, why is this? Why is that? That doesn't make sense. I don't understand. Why do we believe that this person is, Messiah, and just never got my answers, my questions answered. And so coming into, just the Judaism, like you said, it was like, I think the thing that we connected so much with Judaism is that our questions were answered and it was welcomed.
Yeah.
Because before in our, belief system, it was like you bring something and it's like they would just say just because, and you just believe.
Just believe.
And I'm like, that wasn't enough for me. And so I guess when we got the opportunity to start asking questions and then to be able to find the answers as well, and it connected. And so just like I said, hearing your story,
It's amazing.
it is amazing. And it's just so awesome just to see how Hashem works, how God works in people's life and how he brings you back to, that whole, you were at Mount Sinai, right? Like it brings you back there. And so, we're just excited for your story. I know if you actually wrote a children's book, if we're not mistaken, right? Just about what it's like to, if you can elaborate a little bit more about just your book, what it, what it means, what were you talking about in the book? What is the whole concept of your book?
It's called Jewish Just Like You.
Mm-hmm.
And basically there was no children's book for the children of converts. There's a lot of books written by converts that are for adults. So
Yep.
I actually have it here for anyone who's watching.
Yes, yes.
Straight
Ours
into it.
didn't come in the mail yet. Like we
got your book.
got it
Thank you.
when we were researching you. We were like, wait a minute, what is this book?
Yeah.
Right, like a book for children of like I'm like, this is us. So I'm
Yeah.
like, please talk about this.
So it's my personal story. Not everyone has the same story. Like you
Sure.
both, you're converting together. That's different. A lot of people convert without meeting someone Jewish, or their parents convert them in the mikvah. Like everyone has a different story, but the feeling is the same. And just it teaches you that, you know, when you're talking to non-Jewish family members, like they do Christmas, we do Hanukkah, it's okay, you know, and it's different and it's fine, and respect everybody's cultures and traditions and values.
Mhm.
And also that you're not different than the Jewish kid next to you who was born to Jewish parents who didn't convert. You know, you're all the same. And yeah, just don't feel like you're an outcast or anything like that. You are part of the Jewish people and be proud of it. And yeah, and it's illustrated by this incredible Los Angeles artist, Barbara Mendez. If you ever come to
Wow.
Pico Robertson and drive down Robertson, she has an amazing, colorful studio and makes
Okay.
really cool Judaica. But yeah, so I wanted that to be out there for people. And I wrote it before I had children. I had like a little blonde girl was the main character, and then my first child was a little blonde girl. So
Okay.
I kind of knew.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could have predicted that though, because I'm blonde.
No, that's amazing. You know, so since we're talking about children, can you talk a little bit about maybe how it's been for you to raise Jewish kids, you know, with Jewish values, and maybe why is it important to do this so that they can grow up with these values? Because I mean, we've seen it in our just small time of learning Judaism. We've seen that when it's not taught in the house, right? The kids turn out secular, and then they end up going to public schools. And this is not a judgment on anybody. Everybody has a different journey, but we've seen it. Right? We've seen it so many times where kids are not growing up with these values. So, can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So I put my first child in Gan, which is Jewish daycare. Gan is like the Israeli Hebrew word for it. At 1 year, and that was just, we waited a while during COVID, and then my second one I put in at 3 months because I work more than full time. I have my own business, so they know more Hebrew than I do, and I'm very happy about that.
There you
They're
go.
gonna feel
Exactly.
like little Israelis. All their teachers are Israeli. So
Beautiful.
they come home with like accents. They say Ario, like my daughter says Arios instead of Oreos, and I'm like, that must be the Israeli teacher.
What? That's crazy.
That's
Yeah.
great.
It's very cute. They have their little Israeli sayings and everything. So I just think it's very important to get an authentic Jewish education for them, because a lot of people are taught Judaism on a very shallow level, like just they just read the Torah and no even Rashi, which is the first level of commentary. When you do that, the Torah sounds crazy.
Mhm.
It sounds like God is vengeful. He hates us. He needs our praise. Whatever little thing we do is
Good
going to
point.
set him off. Then when you read what's actually going on, you're like, oh, it's just written that way so that we can understand it. It's for us. Like God doesn't actually act that way. It's just so we ascribe human things to him so
Sure.
that we can understand him, because he's just so out there that we can't otherwise.
Yeah.
Incomprehensible.
Right.
Yeah. So then people just grow up with a less than stellar Jewish education and think that it's just like I thought about Catholicism, like really dark and demanding and like tough, but that's not it at all. And they think, oh, we have all these things to do. Like, why would you want to become Orthodox? You just have so many rules. And it's like,
Yeah.
not rules. These are ways to connect with God.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, when you let's say
Yes.
you eat a cheeseburger, that's just like taking a little bit of your connection away from God. It's
Mhm.
not like God
Mm.
isn't like, oh, this person's going to hell. No, it's just that's affecting you. God is just there to like, he does care, but it's more so for us, you know?
Ah,
So
beautifully said.
I see it as like a ladder of connection, you know, the more, you know, faith that you have, the more of the commandments that you can do to the best of your ability, the more you learn Torah, the more connected you are, and the better you feel, the better it is for your soul. And I when I'm less connected, when I'm not doing as much Judaism as I want, you just really feel lost. And like my husband saw it, like when he wasn't practicing Judaism, he became an alcoholic and he was very lost and like just doing all these crazy things. And I really think that Jews have a special connection to God, and we
Yes.
are the spiritual epicenter of the world. And a lot of anti-Semitism, I think, comes from when Jews aren't doing their job of being the spiritual epicenter of the world. People see that and they get mad because everybody's soul, Jewish or not, wants to be connected to God. So when they see that we aren't connected to God, they're like, you know, they get mad at us. Like their soul gets mad at us. That's what I think. Maybe it's a little controversial, but I think that Jews really need to be like the light shining onto the world, onto the other nations. We need to set the example. And when we
Exactly.
don't, a lot of bad things can happen. I don't think we cause it. It's a very hard subject,
Yeah.
anti-Semitism, but I think that we need to set a good example when we are doing bad things. And whenever I'm out and I'm visibly Jewish, I always make sure to be a good example because I don't need any reason for anyone to hate me. So I think that's our duty. Like we really need to be a light onto the world.
That's beautiful. That is so beautiful. And I mean, you said so many things that we
So
talk
many
about
things.
all the time and that we
Yeah.
say. And it's like, it's not a restriction, right? It's just another way to connect even more to
Yep.
God. And I'm so happy that you said that
Yep.
because that's the question that we get a lot, like why Orthodox Judaism? You guys could have went conservative. You could have went reform. You could have went
Yeah.
this.
613
Yeah. You
commandments.
don't have to do all of that. And it's like, but we look at it as such a beautiful thing and we look at it as a privilege, right? It gives us the opportunity to be more of the light, to be, I mean, Jews are the chosen people, but it doesn't make them better. It just makes them more responsible. We're just more responsible, right? And so you saying all of that, it's like, that's music to our ears. That's just so beautiful to hear. And so I guess kind of connecting to what you said, well, his question, how has it been, especially for you growing up? I mean, well, not growing up, for you coming into this way of life, and then your parents are not. Was that challenging at all for you to be able to
Good
like
question.
do things, connect with your family and your parents?
Good question.
Was it challenging for your kids, to be able to go over to their grandparents and do things? I would just love to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, I think the most challenging thing is that both my parents are not religious. So if I became any religion, like Mormon, or my cousin became Muslim, which is very interesting, lives in Qatar. I became Jewish and live in LA. But I think anything, they would be like, oh, this is a bit crazy, just because they're not really
Makes sense.
connected. Um, so I think that's a challenge, but it's never been about Judaism or anything. Like my dad's been here when I won't touch the lights on Shabbat. He's like, but you touch them tonight when Shabbat is over. I'm like, yeah, I know. It's hard to understand from an outside perspective if you don't study it for a long time.
Yeah.
So that's all that I say. Like I never judge, like, for instance, Mormons, like they don't drink coffee. I'll never say anything. It's like, I don't eat bacon. They probably think I'm weird. So I'm not going to
Right.
think
Right.
they're weird. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know their reason. These things, religions obviously make sense to people. They give people something, they make them feel good, they give them community. So I will never judge anyone for being any type of religion.
Beautiful.
I understand it all. So yeah, I'd say just that. And then, when we go over, since my family's in Baltimore, thankfully, there's plenty of really good kosher food. The community there is awesome. Very Hamish. Hamish is like warm and friendly.
Okay.
So yeah, like last time we were there, my sister ordered kosher Chinese food for us, the best kosher Chinese food in the world.
Oh my gosh. Don't even do that to us. I'm
You
so
can't get
hungry
it
right
here. I'm
now,
sorry.
and Chinese food sounds amazing.
Las Vegas has some good Chinese food. I'll tell you about it. But yeah, so there's ways to make it work. Like we won't go over on Shabbat, obviously. We'll just visit other days of the week, but they've been really understanding. So thankfully, and there's a lot of Jews there in Baltimore, so it's not like they're unfamiliar with it.
Wow.
That's awesome. You said so many incredible things, so many deep things, and yes, some things could be could be controversial, but you said things in such a very just a very beautiful way. Like your tone, there's a lot of love behind your voice,
Yes.
and and we appreciate that. Like I've been taking a lot of like mental notes in how you're explaining certain things, because like you don't come off as judgmental.
Hmm.
Like I love how you said, everybody just basically has their own journey. There's something that people are connecting with other different religions, and you never tell them that they're wrong and make them feel. We love that, and that is the perfect example of what it means to be responsible, like how
Hmm.
you said, right? The Jews have a big responsibility. They're the light of the world, and with your heart, your perspective, your view on things, you're definitely doing that 100%.
Yeah.
Thank you. You too. And I'm so happy for your journey. And I know we did the same conversion, and it's going to be great. It's not as epic as you think when you go to the mikvah. when my it's more epic, like doing the journey and finally becoming a Jew. But
Oh, wow.
when I went to the mikvah, it was right before my wedding, and you know what toiveling is?
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Yep.
when you take dishes, one of those other weird things we do, and you dip
Yeah.
them
Dip
so
them
that
in the
they're
water.
yeah. And my mother-in-law was like, "Can you take some dishes with you?" And I'm like, "You want me to take dishes with me when I convert to Judaism?" And then she heard how absurd it sounded, and she goes, maybe not."
That's awesome. That's epic. She wanted you to
I
take the whole kitchen in there,
yeah, we always laugh in my family, so that's good.
That's
Wow.
epic.
Well, this has been amazing, Kylie. Thank you so much for just taking this time with us and just you
Absolutely.
just sharing your story, your journey. Listening to your heart is so beautiful. I think you're going to inspire just so many just Jews that are even just listening and
Yes.
people who are not. I mean, we have all types of viewers that are on here, which is so beautiful to see. But everything that you explained and how you said it, I think my husband couldn't have said it better. You have so much love, you have so much peace too, and you have this confidence
Yeah.
of knowing who your God is, and you can feel that. So we're just excited that we got to have this opportunity with you. Thank
Yep.
you for taking the time with us. We feel like we just gained another friend,
Yeah.
right? And hopefully we get to meet you in person. We're not too far away. We come to LA,
We're
so
actually on
we're
LA
actually
today.
coming to LA today. So
Awesome.
yeah. So but thank you so much. This has been nothing but an honor and a pleasure to be able to take this time with you.
And we wish you much success in all of your endeavors.
Yes.
May you have a lot of blessings, brachas, all that good stuff for your family, your marriage, your parenting, your business, and the impact that you're going to continue to have.
Thank you. You too. Amen. Amen.
Thank you very
Thank you so
much.
much.
We'll talk soon.
All right. Have a good one.
Wow, wow, wow.
That was
That
incredible.
was a conversation for you right there.
Yeah. And, I think what was just so awesome about that conversation is because we can relate so much to her.
100%. That's
It,
why I was flowing so much.
yeah. Yeah. And just, hearing her story and just her connection, how she kind of was raised, with her understanding of who God is and
Yep.
to what she is now. I'm like, that was me.
That's
You
it.
know what I mean? I mean, not the whole atheist, quite to that part, but just overall. And just, man, what a good heart. What a good, she has such a good, beautiful spirit
Yep.
about herself.
Yep.
And just to hear her story, her journey, and how she even mentioned too. I thought that was like, when I go out, I make sure that I represent Judaism
I
in a
love that.
beautiful way.
That was one of the big mental notes that I took. I'm like,
Yeah, you are
okay.
representation, right? Like,
Right. It's a privilege to wear these you know what I
mhm.
mean? It's a privilege to wear
It's a
kippah. It's a
privilege to cover my hair,
right.
right. So
It was just great. And then if her talking about being an atheist, and I'm like, you gonna hit us with that? We don't have enough time. We gotta talk. We need more time. But we had a
yeah,
great time.
yeah,
And so make sure you guys, for those who are listening, make sure you
mhm,
guys follow her. Right, we will
yeah,
put all of her social media platforms and everything in the description so that you guys can be able to follow everything that she has going on, because
yeah.
she's doing some incredible things. And just know that she's the go-to publicist, right? So if you need some of that work done, you got to reach out to Mrs. Kylie Ora Lobell.
And don't forget, guys, to get her book. What a beautiful book to have. I mean,
We can't wait to read that thing.
I think every Jewish household should have that book. I think
100%.
that would be so great just to, for a child to, for a parent to read that to their child, have maybe
Yep.
more understanding about conversion and
Yep.
about a convert. I mean, I think that's needed. That's just so awesome to hear that. And we got our copy. So make sure you support.
That's right. We just hope that she has so much success in everything that she does. She
Deserves
and her
it.
family just totally deserves it.
Absolutely.
So, babe, episode 3 is a wrap. We did it.
We did it.
Episode 3.
Can you believe it already?
It's incredible. So thank you guys so much for your support. Make sure you subscribe to everything.
Yes.
Everything Aish, right? So right now, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure go down below, see the little subscribe button, click subscribe. That way you can always be in the loop. Maybe take it to the next level, turn your notifications on.
That's
That way
right.
you can really be in the loop and you know what's going on. So make sure you follow Aish on Twitter. Make sure you follow Aish on TikTok. Make sure you follow Aish on Instagram.
YouTube.
Make sure you follow Aish everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay. For those who are listening on the audios, make sure that whatever platform you're listening on, make sure you rate the podcast. And this is really going to help Aish continue to be able to get incredible content out there. And for those who may be wondering, we also have social media as well. And we have House of Lave on everything. So on YouTube, you can find a House of Lave. On everything, House of Lave, everything. So make sure you check us out for more content as well.
Thanks, guys, for tuning in. And just make sure that you continue to look out for Talk Jewish to Me podcast.
Thank you, guys.